Hey team, before we officially start in 1 minute, I got an email from the Associate Soup's office asking if we wanted to take advantage of Mastery Connect professional learning, and it will be prepaid. So just kind of think about that, and we can chat about that right after the meeting.
I am sending a reminder message to our other members to join, and we are also waiting on our Go Team rep. But I'm not sure if we absolutely have to wait for them to join to start.
They don't come to every meeting.
Got you. Okay.
The first time, can you guys hear me? First time on video.
Yeah, we can't see you, Miss Herbert.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, there you are.
Sorry, it was off, y'all.
Miss Herbert, I sent a message to Miss Coleman. Can you send one to Miss Lumumba? Miss Coleman is logging in now.
Okay, I'm gonna contact Miss Lumumba.
Good evening, Miss Pitchford.
Good evening.
Good evening, Miss Coleman.
Good evening. Sorry about that. My Zoom decided to update now.
Oh, we understand. No problem. Any word, Ms. Herbert?
None.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and get started.
Okay.
All right, good evening. Welcome to FL Stanton's Goal Team meeting, where we will follow the agenda as it has been emailed to you and publicly noticed. I would like to remind everyone that this is a meeting of the Goal Team. Only members of the team may participate in the discussion. Any members of the public present are here to quietly observe. For members of the Goal Team, please identify yourself when you speak. I am pleased to call this meeting of the FL Stanton Goal Team meeting to order at 5:05 p.m. Our first order of business is to call roll. The secretary will now take the roll.
Okay, one moment. Okay, Principal Alicia Torres,
Present.
Ms. Lumumba, Tiffany Coleman, Washington. Present. Ms. Herbert, Ashley Herbert,
Present.
Ms. Tucker Rivers,
Present.
Sharon Pickford.
Sharon Pitchford, present.
Okay, and we have no Go Team coordinator today, right?
I think Ms. Gibson wanted to attend, but have you heard back from her, Ms. Tucker?
No.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and proceed.
Okay,
Okay. This team will only be able to take official action if a quorum is present. Is there a quorum present, Secretary?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have 7 people.
So yes.
There's a quorum.
Yes. Okay. So we will follow the agenda as it was sent to you and it is posted online. We have action items. First order of business. Our first order of business is to approve the agenda. This was provided to you and copies. It was provided to you in your email and it was posted online. Are there any changes to the agenda? Okay. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I approve the agenda.
A second?
Sharon Pitchford, second.
All in favor say aye so that the secretary can record your vote.
Aye.
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 Okay.
All opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions? Please say abstain. All right, our agenda has been, we will review and approve the meeting minutes from our last meeting. The minutes have been provided to you online. Are Ms. Powell, could you, I'm sorry. The minutes have been provided to you online. Are there any corrections to the minutes? If there are no corrections to the minutes from last meetings, may I have a motion to approve the previous meeting's minutes?
I approve.
A second.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions? please say abstain. All right. We can move forward. All right, so our first action item, our additional action item that we have to select the public comment meetings. We have to have a total of 4 for the school year. And we cannot count this one because we're actually voting for the dates. We agreed to have the meetings on every first Wednesday of the month, excluding December. Was it December and January? So that would mean that the dates that we have open are November 6th, February 5th, March 5th, April 7th, and did we put May in there also? Ms. Powell?
Let me double check right quick. No, we did not.
We did not. Thank you, Ms. Coleman.
You're
So
welcome. We
have to
also
pick.
noted that the 5th was going to be a longer meeting. I don't remember exactly why. Something Diane said that the 5th was going to be a longer meeting. So
February 5th or March 5th?
February 5th, I'm sorry.
Okay.
That's when we'll do a budget review. That's why it's gonna be longer.
Okay.
So that will be our budget review meeting. Got it. So we have 4 meetings then left where we can make those public comment, and that would be November 6th, November 6th. Well, no, then it would have to still be on February 5th. So November 6th, February 5th, March 5th, and April 2nd. Because we didn't do May, correct?
We did not do May, but we did put December 4th down there.
So December 4th was a part of it. We are going to do December. So instead of, because the budget review will be February 5th, and that was the suggestion, correct, that we didn't do it on that date?
Correct.
So the other 4 dates are November 6th, December 4th, March 5th, and April 2nd.
Yes,
for
ma'am.
the public comment meetings.
So we're going to do it on what days?
The dates are November 6th.
Okay.
December 4th.
Okay.
March 5th. And April 2nd.
Okay. Those are the dates you're suggesting?
Those are the dates that I am suggesting.
Okay.
Okay. So do I have a motion to approve this item?
I move that we accept the 4 dates for public comment as stated.
Teron Pitchford.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye, so the secretary can record your vote.
Aye.
Jessica Tucker, aye.
And please remember to state your name so that she can capture your name in the minutes when you vote.
Ashley Herbert, aye.
Teron Pitchford, aye.
Tiffany Coleman, aye.
I can't vote. I'm not a voting member.
Welcome, Ms. Jacoby.
Hey, y'all. Sorry, I apologize for being late. Lots of meetings today. Y'all doing okay?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, ma'am.
All righty.
Ms. Jacoby, did you hear our dates for the public comment meetings?
No, ma'am, I did not.
Okay, so we just approved the dates for November 6th,
Mm-hmm.
December 4th, March 5th, and April 2nd.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am. All right, we will now move to the discussion items on our agenda. First, we have our school strategic plan, which will include the strategic plan and priorities review and the SMART goals. Ms. Torres.
Want me to share my screen or do you want to share?
You can share yours.
Okay, give me a sec. All right, can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is just a review of the agenda that we dropped in, but I'll jump right into the strategic plan and our continuous improvement plan. In Atlanta Public Schools, we govern everything that we do based off of our board goals and guardrails. So on the screen, you'll see goals 1 through 4. However, right now we're focusing on goal 1, which is literacy proficiency. And so the board goal states that all students in grades 3 through 8 will be proficient in language arts that is measured based on the Georgia milestones. So we do have literacy data from the Georgia milestones. However, our math data has been embargoed. So we will review that a little bit later in the presentation. So how do these things connect? So we do a plan, do, check, act model in Atlanta Public Schools. That is our model for continuous improvement. We start with the strategic plan and priorities. Then we move into what's called the continuous improvement plan, where we break down what the goals are from the board, the guardrails, and we make them into more bite-sized pieces based on our student population. After that, we have to do the work and then we monitor the work. So you move from the strategic plan and priority to your SIP SMART goals. And then we have our key indicator, and that tells us we are actually meeting the SMART goals that we have decided upon. So our 3 big rocks for FL Stanton are curriculum and instruction, data-driven instruction, and collaborative culture. So what this basically means is we're focusing on the standards the state of Georgia has presented to us, and how do we use the data to measure mastery based on those standards, and how are we coming together to discuss this data and these standards in a culture that really drives and supports instruction. So that's what our 3 big rocks are. Now to show you the actual plan. I know it's a little bit small, but what it basically says for literacy is that by the end of this school year, 24-25, the number of FAY students, and that FAY is full academic year, students scoring proficient or above in literacy based on the milestones assessment in grades 3 through 5 will increase from 19% 23.2%. Now, I'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to the data overview, but just to let you know, or Miss Baker will, we have disaggregated this data and we have identified that we need 20 scholars across grades 3 through 5 to actually meet this goal. Okay, so our staff has been made aware of this. We've talked about it in whole child intervention, team meeting, as well as leadership. So the numbers for math are pretty much the same. We want to increase by 6% from 17% to 23%. So here again, that's 20 scholars across grades 3 through 5 that we need to move in order to meet this goal. Now, these may or may not be the same students that we have in literacy. But what we have done is broken down, drilled all the way down to the student level. We know who these 20 students are that we can move, and we know who we need to target a little bit more strategically to get to this number. And then for whole child, our goal is always to increase our attendance. And so right now we want to decrease our 49.8%. That was last year. We want to decrease that by 10% to 39.8%. We're doing pretty well right now. We do have a few families that we have to send the 10-day letter to that, hey, your scholar has not been present enough at school. So we are on top of that. We meet about those numbers weekly. All right. And I will turn it over now to Ms. Baker, who will give us just a high-level overview of what these numbers actually mean real time when it's measured by GMAS and by our interim indicator, which is the MAP assessment.
Good evening, everyone. As Principal Torres indicated, we do take two assessments. Well, there are other assessments that we take, but two assessments that primarily attach themselves to our continuous improvement plan and detail how close we are to meeting those identified goals within the continuous improvement plan. If I can share my screen, I'm going to go over those two assessments. Many of you all are familiar with the Georgia Milestone Assessment, and then we take an interim assessment prior to the administration of the Georgia Milestone Assessment. Is everyone able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. And so when we talk about the Georgia Milestone Assessment, it is an assessment that is given to all scholars in grades 3 through 8 in the state of Georgia. It measures how well students have acquired the knowledge and skills as it pertains to the standards of excellence. And it assesses our students, again, as I indicated, in grades 3 through 8, because we are a K-5 school. Our scholars will be assessed in English language arts, mathematics, and our 5th graders in science. This year, the test is going to be administered via Chromebooks as it has been in the past. The test will be administered April 28th, and it will run until May 14th of 2025. The features of the test are selected response, which are multiple choice, constructed response, which are open-ended questions, extended constructed response, where the students have to provide roughly a paragraph to a prompt, and then you have the extended writing response. There are also technology enhanced items embedded within the test, those being drag and drop, paste, drop down list, and then you may have an equation builder. Some questions on the Georgia Milestone do require that our scholars select more than one answer. As I indicated, the sections of the Georgia Milestone, ELA has 3 sections, and last year the district went to allow us to do the test over a span of 3 days with the ELA so that the students weren't boggled down taking 2 sections in 1 day. And so with ELA, you have the selected response, constructed response, extended writing response, and then also some field test items. For mathematics, they have selected response, constructed response, multiple part items, and then field technology enhanced items. And then for science, for our 5th graders, there are 2 sections, the multiple part items and the enhanced technology. With the writing at every grade level, 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, the scholars are given prompts that they have to reply to. It is key to understand that the scholars, if they just rewrite what the prompt said, they will not receive any points. Typically for ELA, the prompts are either going to be informative, explanatory, or opinion and argumentative. When they receive a narrative, it is typically for them to continue on what the narrative was or how the story changed. These are the guidelines as far as the minimum amount of times per section and the maximum amount of time, the maximum time. If you are familiar with Georgia Milestone, scholars are scored in 4 categories, being beginning learner, which basically indicates that the scholar has not demonstrated grade level proficiency, developing learner, where the scholar has demonstrated partial proficiency as it pertains to the grade level, proficient learner, which means that the scholar demonstrated grade level proficiency, and then distinguished learner, where the scholar has demonstrated above grade level proficiency. If you are interested in practicing with your scholar, there is a website, www.georgiaexperienceonline, and this will give your scholar practice prior to the administration of Georgia Milestone. As Principal Torres indicated, our scholars do take an interim assessment three times during the year, which is called a MAP assessment, better known as the Measures of Academic Progression. And basically, this is a computerized assessment as well. And scholars are tested in reading, math, fluency, and science. It is used to help teachers identify students who may need extra support or extension, and it does inform instructional strategies and practices for our teachers as well as our leadership team. It is aligned to the Georgia Milestone Assessment, and it is an indicator of future milestone performance. As you are aware, we did conclude our fall administration, which was from August 19th through the 30th. We have 31 days before the next administration, and that will be our winter administration, which will begin on December 2nd and conclude on December 20th. And then the spring administration right before milestone, which will be March 18th to April 4th. Principal Torres, I'm not sure if you want me to produce the next slide, which kind of gives a comparison of where we were with MAP performance, spring MAP performance in comparison to our reading milestone performance.
I do want to ask you before you do that, go back maybe 2 slides. I just had one comment. So no, go back, go forward. Yeah, that one, the one scoring, yes. So team, when I mentioned to you that we have drilled down and those 20 scholars that we need to move, I want to point out to you that those scholars are coming from largely our developing learners. And in years past, we used to call these bubble kids. And that's kids who, are like right on the cusp of being proficient, but with some targeted support, we can push them on over. So I want to let you know that if scholars are scoring at the high end of this developing learner, those are the scholars that we're targeting, 20 in reading and 20 in math. That's where we're pulling from. So I wanted to make sure that when you look at your score report, if you see that your scholar scored on the highest end of developing, then your child will probably be one of those that will push for that target support. That's all, Ms. Baker, I wanted to interject. Thank you so much. You're doing a great job.
My pleasure. Thank you. You should have received a score report for MAP assessment. It's called a family report. It was sent home roughly 3 weeks ago. So if you did not receive that from your scholar, please check your scholar's backpack for that report. And if you need another copy, we do not mind producing another copy for you. With regards to what Principal Torres was talking about, as far as the spring MAP assessment. So as you can see, spring 23-24 at the second grade level, we had 56 exams administered. Red indicates our learners are in the beginning. So 79% of our second graders scored in the beginning category. And this is a combination of reading and reading and math for MAP assessment. 16% of those scholars were what we call our developing learners. And as you can see from the light green and the dark green, the reason why our percentage is not listed there is because it was maybe only 1 or 2 students who scored in that category. For our third grade scholars, 57% of our scholars on both the reading and math MAP were in the beginning category, with 32% in developing and 7% in our proficient category. At the fourth grade level, 56% of those scholars in both math and reading were at the beginning level, 27% were at the developing level, and 16% of those fourth grade scholars were proficient. Looking at our fifth graders, who are now sixth graders, 62% of those scholars were beginning, 30% were beginning, developing, and 8% were proficient. In comparison to our Georgia milestone reading data, again, math data is embargoed, therefore I cannot share that information. We had 29 third graders to assess at Georgia milestone, and 59% of those third graders were below grade level expectation, with 41% of them either at or above grade level expectation. Fourth grade for reading, 62% were below grade level and 38% were at or above grade level. And then with our fifth graders, again, who are now sixth graders, 38% of those fifth graders were performing below grade level and 62% were at or above grade level. Are there any questions with regards to the spring map scores and Georgia reading release scores? Okay, that is all I have. Thank you.
All right, that we have taken care of our school strategic plan and our data discussion. Are there any questions or comments about our school strategic plan or our map results or Georgia milestones results?
I have a question. Sharon Pitchford.
Yes.
So I guess I was looking at the goal was like kind of focusing in on those 20 children. And then those were the children that were kind of scoring in that that yellow area, right? Like on the map, like that you would be kind of pushing for. I guess I'm wondering, are there any goals that are for like any of the other children or whatever that would be a part of the strategic plan?
So let me drill down, Ms. Pitchford. Tell me exactly what you're asking. Are you speaking to the goal that said, the part that said proficiency?
Right. So
Student
there was
proficient?
part of going from like an increase from like 19% to like 23.2%. And I think that was like focusing in on like 20 children specifically, right? Like that you would try to have move throughout third through fifth grade, I guess, that you would be kind of trying to direction. Okay. So I guess I was wondering, because I think if I'm understanding it properly, when I was looking at that map, with the results, what you were saying is that you would kind of focus in on the children that were in that like yellow area where they were almost getting to proficiency or whatever. That's where you would be kind of thinking those 20 children would come from. And I guess my question is there any kind of goal that is included in the strategic planning that would be for like the children that were in that red, for instance? Like, are we trying to see them move up to some level or whatever as well?
Okay, I thought that's what you were asking. So yes, the short answer is yes. We want all students to be at 100% proficiency, but for the sake of our continuous improvement plan, we have to pick a bucket. And so we pick that bucket based on what the district's goals and guardrails are, and we follow behind that. So since that is proficiency at grades 3 through 8, that's how we mirror our continuous improvement plan. But at the school-based level, yes, we are focusing heavily on our red because we don't want to see red. We, of course, want to see green. And so we have Ms. Herbert, who is our math specialist. She's student facing. We have our instructional coaches, and we've just talked to our leadership team about them being student facing as well, because we need to get as much targeted support for those kids that are in the red, as much as possible. So yes, the answer is yes. We are definitely focusing on those in the red, but for the purposes of meeting the goal for the continuous improvement plan, it will take a little bit longer, of course, to move those who are further away from proficiency than it would for those kids who are in the yellow. So we felt confident as a leadership team and a whole child intervention team that we could effectively, with 180 days of instruction, move 20 kids across 3 grade levels and meet that goal. But of course, the goal is 100% proficiency for all students. So yes, we are focusing on those reds heavily.
Thank you for answering the question.
My pleasure. Did it answer your question, or do I need to, did that give you a little bit more insight?
Yeah, no, it does. I think for me, of course, wanting to make certain that I'm understanding like what the purpose of the strategic goal is for. Like if it's for like, okay, for this continuous improvement plan, we have to highlight something that we know we're going to move across the board, then that makes sense. I think I was understanding it more like you're talking about what like the school goal is in general. And so with you breaking down that difference, that makes sense to me why you highlighted that specifically. Yeah.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments pertaining to the school strategic plan or the data from 2023 for MAP and Georgia milestones? All right. We're moving into the agenda where we have to discuss our optional school uniform. So we have an important decision to make regarding the continuation or implementation of an optional school uniform. Our goal today is to first decide whether we wish to move forward with this initiative. If we vote in favor of maintaining or exploring the establishment of an optional school uniform, we will then discuss the formation of an advisory committee to help implement and manage the process. If we vote against maintaining or exploring the establishment of an optional school uniform, the school will not have a school uniform in 2025, 2026, and we will proceed to the next agenda item. Before we move forward, Principal Torres, can you provide the team with the background information on this policy change?
I couldn't find my cursor, I'm sorry. Give me 1 second so I can share.
And the policy was also emailed to you guys when we sent out the notice. So you can pull it up in your email.
Okay, can you guys see my screen? Did it post? Okay. All right, so this year, we've had some very deep discussions in this year and last year, some deep discussions in Atlanta Public Schools around appropriate uniform or appropriate dress code. So the district has published a new dress code, and I believe it's in the policy. It's, let's see, I think it's this slide. So this is the basis of the policy, but if we go to this tiny URL, it'll give you the full policy. So basically, years past, schools were able to say no sagging pants or no baggy pants, no see-through top. They were able to be very specific. Now that's been determined to be inequitable because it's enforced ethnically, just to be politically correct, in more places than others. So it affects our Black and brown babies a little bit more than it does their counterparts. And so the equity team, along with the department, a division of schools, got together with the principals advisory council to the superintendent to come up with a draft of a new policy. And so it did pass board approval in June this year. And so here on the screen, you see it's only 4 basic requirements. You can't show your underwear. You have to have on shoes, whatever kind of shoes they are. And we can't see your skin basically through your clothes. So the spaghetti straps, the leggings, all of those discussions that were in the news last year with Atlanta Public Schools and the uniform or dress code policies have been removed. Also, I do want to highlight that one of the major shifts in policy is now that we cannot remove a kid from instructional time based on what they're wearing. So that goes back to that equity piece. We were using dress code. We were treating it as a behavior, and we became disproportionate, especially with our Black and brown males, they were being suspended and removed, whether it be OSS, ISS, at disproportionate rates. And so we were found by the Council of Great City Schools to be in violation of civil rights of those students. And so we had to react quickly and swiftly. And so that's what our board has done. So in an effort to relieve some of the burden off of parents, we do have the option to have a school uniform. Here again, the key word is optional. Even if we decide as a team that this is what we want to continue, because FL Stanton is a uniform school, the Douglas cluster is a uniform cluster. If we decide that we want to continue with that, it will still be optional, but we would hope that our community would buy into it just to relieve a little bit of that burden, okay? So the restrictions that are in this policy are no words or symbols that are gang-related, sexually offensive, or that promote anything that's illegal. No flip-flop. The reason being, and we have this conversation, Ms. Baker and I, all the time with children, that's for safety. So they can wear any other shoes except for flip-flops. It has to be a shoe that protects the front and the back of your foot. And if you have to move quickly for an evacuation, then you're not going to be able to do that in a flip-flop. So we need you to have on a more protective shoe. Crocs have been a big topic of discussion for years. Personally, I don't like the Crocs, but I'm getting used to them. But what we do ask is when your scholars come with Crocs on, that they have the strap on the back so that it's secure on their foot. So that's basically the update for the uniform policy. These are examples. Did the screen change for you guys? Okay, so these blurbs that you see on our screen are pulled actually from different schools and APS's former dress code policy. No shirts which expose cleavage. The main one that we're going to get, I believe, a little bit of pushback on is no hoodies or hooded jackets. Now, we can't mandate that kids not wear hoodies or hooded jackets, but what we do ask is that scholars do not wear their hoods inside the building. Here again, that's a safety precaution. If something happens, as it did in Barrow County a couple of weeks ago, we need to be able to identify every student, every person that's in the building. We need to see their full face. And with wearing a hood inside the building, that precludes us from being able to do that. And law enforcement, if they come in, they need to see your full face. So we do ask that, but we cannot say you cannot wear a hoodie as in years past. Okay. Let's see. Right, so here we are. If we choose to remain a uniform school, we will have to abide by this policy, which states that instructional time is not interrupted, or they're not barred from school or from class for declining to wear the uniform. And we're going to have to, as a team, take action on this. So I'll turn it back over to Madam Chair so that we can move forward with this portion of the discussion. Madam Chair.
Thank you, Principal Torres. So thank you for that information. Now we can decide if we want to maintain or explore implementing an optional school uniform. This vote will determine if we move forward with the idea. As you vote, if you can go one by one, state your name so that our secretary can record this information. And Ms. Pitchford, you have your hand raised. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I guess I had a quick question of maybe an opinion on what the experience has been. Like, are there any issues that anybody that is experiencing this sees before we vote on whether or not to kind of continue it? Does it seem like it's been going well, or are there issues that parents are having with getting uniforms? Or I would just like input on that from someone that sees what's going on with the uniforms daily.
I can jump in. So we do have scholars here in the building that wear uniforms every day. And for those scholars, it goes well. I think for right now, we have not pushed it. You know, our focus has been getting you to the building, getting you to school and getting you to school on time. We have not really pushed the envelope with being in the school uniform. Um, I would love to see us continue with the school uniform. And to your point about our parents having issues getting uniforms, whenever a parent requests uniforms or request an item of clothing, what we do disseminate from our school social worker is a school uniform. So the items that we pass out. So we're promoting it, I guess, silently, so to speak, but we have not openly stated because we had to adhere to the policy and go through Go Team before we really push having the uniform, wearing the uniform every day.
Have you had a lot of issues with students that weren't within the dress code prior to this? Or had you?
Say no, team. What do you think?
I can speak to that as a classroom teacher, Ms. Pitchford. We do have several instances because I teach upper grades in the 5th grade with the see-through shirts.
And crop
with,
top.
yes.
I've seen crop top, yeah.
But I mean literally see-through also items that they have on or things that are said on the shirts, the suggestive things that are written on the shirts, even like drug symbols on clothing and things of that nature. So we have to address that. And that is something that is actually in the new board policy that they should not be doing anyway. So when I have students that wear uniforms, we don't have any issues. They're not worried about what's on the clothing and things of that nature. It cuts down some of the confusion in the classroom when we have on these uniforms and we don't have to stop and say, okay, we can't wear that, or I can see through this, or I can, because even though this may become something that's an optional uniform, the board policy will still state that they can't have on see-through things. They cannot have their fabric can't be see-through, because even leggings and the t-shirts that are see-through, and also with the shoes, we know when it's hot outside, we see a lot of and that's where we get a lot of the accidents. It's a safety thing, you know what I mean? So if we all decide that this is what we're trying to push as a school, I honestly believe that as a classroom teacher, it helps when they don't have to worry about what it is I have to wear. We don't have to deal with that part of the day. Everybody has uniforms, even that'll make it easier for the school when they have to give out clothing. Because if I have on a regular outfit and then what we offer is a school uniform, sometimes that messes up the day emotionally for some children. But if everybody has on a uniform, and that's what we're pushing as a school, I feel like that helps. I always try to push uniforms in my classroom year after year, especially because I always teach upper grades, and that's when it gets a little tricky.
Yeah, thank you. That's important insight.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I would have raised my hand, but I couldn't find a little button. So this vote would be to push an option of uniforms, but not a school-wide mandate, correct? So you would still have some kids that were in uniform and some kids out of uniform.
Potentially, yes.
Okay.
So the vote would be if we want to become a uniform school. It would still be optional. We cannot mandate that you wear if we chose a gold shirt and navy blue pants. We couldn't, we could not mandate that you wear that every day, but we would be a uniform school. Now, I guess the short answer is yes. We might potentially have students that were in uniform and out of uniform.
In previous years, we have been a uniform school that promoted the option of uniforms, correct? So it would be similar to what it has been.
That's correct. Now, some schools have not had a uniform policy, and so they would be starting from scratch. Basically, what our job is, since we are technically a uniform school, we would have to decide if we want to continue down that route. Either way it goes, the Go team has to decide if this is a direction that we want to continue in.
Okay.
All right. So now we can decide if we want to maintain implementing our optional school uniform. This vote will determine if we move forward with the idea. So if we can one by one so that Ms. Powell can take this information down on our vote. So is there a motion to maintain or explore implementing an optional school uniform?
I move that we move forward with voting as a team on continuing the FL Stanton uniform policy.
Is there a second?
Sharon Pitchford, second.
All right. The motion has been made and seconded. We'll now have a brief discussion, share any questions, any more questions or thoughts or ideas you have about maintaining our optional school uniform. Do we have any other questions or any other ideas? All right. So all in favor of maintaining our implementation of an optional school uniform, please say aye so the secretary can record your vote.
Aye.
Sharon
Please
Pitchford.
remember to state your name when you vote.
Aye, Ashley Herbert.
Aye, Jessica Tucker.
I'm Malika Lumumba.
Sharon Pitchford, I said it, but I just want to make certain it was captured. It was at the same time as someone else talking.
And Ms. Powell, your vote.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay.
Nay. Tiffany Coleman.
Any abstentions, please say abstain. Ms. Powell, the results, please.
Okay, according to the results, we have 7 with aye and 1 with nay.
Okay. So we will move forward. Okay, we will move forward and now we have to identify if we want to allow students to serve on the committee that we have to form. So are we interested in having students serve on the committee? Hold on, I did this wrong.
What
Sorry.
type of
Back
committee?
up. Back up just for a second. I'm so sorry. So Thank you for your votes. The majority of the GO team is in favor of moving forward with maintaining the implementation of the optional school uniform. Now that we voted to proceed, we will need to establish a school uniform advisory committee. Okay. So this committee will be tasked with recommending the stakeholder engagement plan, school uniform components, if a uniform is adopted, the time frame the uniform will be in use, and communication plan upon adoption of a uniform. The committee will present a final report for the GO team's consideration. So let's discuss the goals of the committee. The minimum required goals are to: number one, develop a stakeholder engagement plan to receive feedback on implementing a uniform and its components. It must include a minimum 20-day public comment period on any proposed uniform. Number two, we have to recommend the optional school uniform components. Number three, you have to establish the student voting timeline and process if that's necessary. Number four, you have to determine the length of time the uniform will be in use before consideration. And number five, you have to create a communication plan to inform the school community about the optional school uniform. All right. Are there any additional goals we should consider? All right. Now we will determine who will serve on the committee. The committee will be comprised of 3 GO team members. The committee you will have a committee chair and 2 other additional members. And it may include any other members we identify, but we have to have 3 members. One of them has to be the chair. And we have the option in elementary school if we would like to have students serve on the committee. But first we need to get our GO team members. So can I have volunteers for members of the GO team who would like to serve on the committee? As a reminder, we are limited to 3 GO team members on the committee.
I'm sorry, Tucker. What was the question?
Okay.
I had to step to the door. I'm sorry.
I understand. Can I have volunteers from members of the GO team who would like to serve on this committee? As a reminder, we are limited to 3 GO team members on the committee, and one of the members has to be the committee chair.
Ashley Herbert would volunteer to be on a committee.
Can I ask one more question?
Yes,
You
ma'am.
said about a final report. Do you know when that final report would need to be done by?
I have not received the
Just,
exact.
yep, it would be by,
Oh, thank you, Ms. Gibson.
yeah, I thought let me see, hold on.
Hold
It would
on.
be like, I want to say the date is May 1st, but give me 1 second.
Okay.
I think that sounds right, Ms. Gibson, because we have to publish the results in time for the upcoming school year. So I think that sounds about right.
Okay. And then the public comment piece where we have to give 20 days for that, that would be something that would happen at one of these public comment meetings, or it would be like a separate type of meeting that you have to have for public comment?
It would be like, so no, it wouldn't, well, I mean, you could have a meeting during that time, but basically, typically like what schools will do is they might just have like a survey, a Google form or something that they create. Then they might say, okay, this is, what we're suggesting for our school uniform. And, you send it out to people with the survey, and give them at least that kind of open window to reply to your survey. And so during that public comment period time, you might also choose to have like, let's say it might be during a time when you have a Go Team meeting scheduled. So you can take public comment, at that time. Or I don't know if the principal does like coffee chats, talk about the uniform then. So, just like that 20-day window where you are collecting public comment.
Okay. I can volunteer to be on the committee if there's room.
So far we have Ashley Herbert, we have Sharon Pitchford, and we have Malika Lumumba. I was trying to see
Well,
if you,
I thought about it, but I wanted a little bit more clarity. So on this committee, we will be discussing what type of uniform we would like to have. Is that what we're doing on this committee?
yes. And Ms. Gibson, if I'm correct, they will be establishing what the actual uniform will be that we will be pushing. Is that correct?
Right. And I thought, did y'all say that y'all already had a uniform? Is that right? Wrong?
Oh, we can't hear you.
Oh, I said, did y'all say you
Yes.
already have a uniform?
We do have an option that we've used in the past. So we could readopt that, correct? Or they could.
Right. Like you don't have to, if you want to, just use like, if you already have, something that you share with parents or families, like this is the suggested school uniform, you could maintain that uniform. You just would be going through the steps of that kind of like engagement from.
How do we get it out to the community and things of that nature?
Right. And basically what you're doing with this process, kind of to what Principal Torres said, was, previously school uniforms were decided without input from the school community. And so this gives you opportunity to engage with students if you all, do that explicitly by having them on the committee or, decide to have some focus groups. If you said that you've had trouble in the past getting with kind of those upper grade students, maybe have some upper grade students, I don't know, on the committee, or do, grade level kind of community meetings and talk about it with the kids, just to hear their feedback or thoughts on it so that you can incorporate that into what the uniform at FL Stanton looks like. And so that's the point of this process from the board's perspective, right? Is making sure that there is that engagement piece tied to the school uniform to help build buy-in for uniforms, especially because uniforms are optional. So, you want to the extent possible, try to involve the community in developing the uniform if you'd like to have one, so that hopefully that will encourage participation with the uniforms.
Thank you, Ms. Gibson. So we have two Go Team members that have volunteered. Is there anyone else?
I volunteer. So basically, we're going to just go with what we have and just get that out to the community. Because we're not going to, well, I guess.
If that's what you guys decide as the committee, if that's what you guys would like to do. So it'll be you guys deciding how you want to go about this. If you want to continue with that, if you would like to have different options, have them vote, or have some student input about maybe they want white shirts only, or they want gold shirts on, you know what I mean? So that'll be for you guys, you, Ms. Herbert and Ms. Pitchford, to decide how you would like to go about that. Out of you three ladies, we need a committee chair.
Okay, so going to put my name on, but I don't want to be the chair.
Okay, so Ms. Pitchford or Ms. Herbert?
Okay.
actually, I really just. Oh, you want to go, Mr.
No, no,
Smith?
no, no, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
So, Ms. Herbert, Ms. Herbert will be the committee chair for the uniform committee. Okay. And here we are. Are we interested in having students serve on the committee?
Point of privilege, Madam Chair, I would love to see that. However, I'm not a voting member. I would love to, for us to include student voice, in this decision.
I also agree that that would be something I would love to see.
So, I hear that we would like to have students serve on the committee. How should students be identified to serve on this committee?
Madam Chair, we do have 4 ambassadors that were selected at the beginning of the year to meet with Dr. Johnson. If it's okay and pleases the committee or the Go team, we can use those or we can add to that group.
What's the age range of the ambassadors?
They were 5th grade students.
Oh, okay.
I would
So
love for
what-
us to add some of the younger scholars as well.
Well, you guys said the issues that you mainly see have been with the older children anyway. So it sounds like that could be aligned with who we would want input from.
And our ambassadors, if I may add, have been 3 of the 4 have been at the school most of their time in school age. So they kind of know the climate of the school per se.
And a few of them wear the uniform regularly.
2 of them I can think of right off the top of my head that have on a uniform every single day. They wear their uniform consistently.
Without fail.
Yes.
How do those ambassadors, do they meet or something regularly already? Or it would be kind of just pulling them together for a part of a conversation?
It would be that they are the beginning of our principals council, and hopefully next semester we can move toward a student government council. But yes, so it's just 4 of them now, and we pull them as needed to represent the school and to get talking points. They've started with our morning announcements, things like that.
Got it. Okay.
Those are also the students that helped with the student voice for renovations at FL Stanton. They were consistently involved in making different decisions like our playground with Kaboom and things like that. So they're already kind of coached in making decisions and having their input.
You know what, just throwing out there as a thought, do you guys think it could make sense to maybe pull a person or 2 who you feel like does not wear the uniform, or maybe you do see sometimes kind of going outside of what you would want, so that maybe their input could be, part of the buy-in for it as well?
I agree. And one of them actually is one of the students that does that does not care for the uniforms at all. Even when you say, hey, wear uniforms, they'll just dress up. They don't they won't do the whole school uniform thing. So, but I do get what you're saying, because we have to try to get the kids to buy in. So who knows that better than the kids who don't want to wear the uniforms? So if we had to wear uniforms, what is it that which one of these would you agree with if you had to wear this uniform every day? So yes, I agree, Miss Pitchford. Okay, so we will include our elementary school students, starting with our school ambassadors, and we will pull a couple of more students that are maybe 4th grade. Principal Torres, I know, so that we can have equity of voice in the upper grades, because that's usually where we see most of the issues, as Ms. Pitchford identified.
How about a compromise, 3rd and 4th?
Okay.
and we already have the 5th. So if we add a couple of 3rd graders, a couple of 4th graders, I think that will give us a good span of the student body.
Okay. So are there any other individuals or groups we should consider to be a committee member? Because we have the option of having 2 additional members that are not Gold Team members. Are there any other people we would like to consider or groups we would like to consider for this committee?
Can it be open to other parents in the school besides the Gold Team parents?
Oh, absolutely. It can be other parents that are not on the Go Team, especially parents who, I would even say, we said students who don't wear them, the parents of students who don't, who, you know, choose not to put their children in uniforms. You want to hear maybe at least one of them?
I mean, as a parent who doesn't send her kid in uniform, I think it's a valid opinion. I mean, she started in uniform and now we've switched out of uniforms. So I think that is a valid opinion from the people who are going to have to enforce these kids to wear these uniforms, one, and those that are going to purchase the uniforms maybe have their opinion outside of Go Team members as to, you know, maybe a parent of a kid who does wear uniforms and maybe a parent of a kid who doesn't wear uniforms, so that you can balance, you know, the input, not just from students who wear, who don't wear, but also from parents of students who wear and don't wear uniforms.
I agree, Ms. Coleman. Committee, are you in agreement with Ms. Coleman?
100%. Yeah.
All right. Finally, we need to determine the length of time for this committee. The committee will need to complete its work and bring a recommendation for the full Go Team's consideration in spring semester. So please suggest the termination date for the committee. So, Ms. Torres, the date we were given, it's what, May 1st?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so May 1st, it has to already have been voted on because, or no, we have to have it voted on by that date, correct?
Yes, I would suggest that we have it by conclude all of the input by the end of March before we go into spring break. So that gives us time to tally, prepare the reports. If there's any attachments that we want to send out as a presentation, we'll have time to prepare that for that Go Team meeting where we present the findings. Does that make sense? So include input by the end of March. So that gives us 2 weeks in April, 2.5 weeks in April to get everything together to present by May. Does that align with our meetings? I can't remember.
Our meeting, hold on.
Did we
one
say
for
we were
March is
having a
March
May
5th?
or no?
The one for March is March 5th. You said March, right?
Yes.
March 5th is our meeting dates. So we
Did
need
we have one in April?
April is April 2nd.
Okay, so yeah, so we would probably between the March Go Team meeting and that April Go Team meeting, so somewhere maybe mid-March then, conclude the input, the community and student input, so we can get ready to present it for the April meeting, since we have to be finalized by May 1st.
So we need an actual termination date. So I need to remind you that you will need to vote on the recommendations. We will need to vote on the recommendations of the committee in the spring semester, and the school will need time to implement the communication plan.
Okay.
So Ms. Powell will take the end date that we choose.
Okay.
Can I real quick, what's that May date for? Is that when the implementation will be taking place? Or I feel like there was a May date that we needed to have.
We have to have this concluded by May 1st.
Right. So
Okay.
that you guys can start communicating. So I mean, if you can get it done before that, that's great, right? So you'll have more time to communicate with families about the uniform, you know, if you guys do end up adopting it. So we just put that in there, you know, so teams could at the very least have that last month of school to start telling parents about it, and then it would be in effect for the new school year, August of 2025.
Correct.
Madam Chair, I recommend that we look at wrapping up our engagement campaign either by March 14th or March 21st. And that'll give us ample time to prepare for the April Go Team meeting.
So you are suggesting what termination dates for this, where we have to have everything concluded so that we can start getting the word out for the next school year? So what would be our termination date that you're suggesting?
Either the 14th of March or the 21st of March. And that's just a recommendation. If the committee thinks that they will need more time to take the data from the input campaign to prepare for that April meeting, then I would say we will go with the 14th versus the 21st. Because the Go Team meeting would be, what was it, April the 9th?
It is April
2nd.
2nd.
April 2nd, okay, so yes. So we would, if the team or the committee needs more time, then I would recommend the 14th of March.
Okay, real quick, again, for clarification, I knew that there has to be a vote, right?
Correct.
That vote is with the Go Team, or is this like input vote from like parents and students?
I believe it's the Go Team. Is that correct, Ms. Gibson?
Yes, at the elementary school level, you all aren't required to do the student body vote.
Okay. And so we would be then saying that this vote would happen on that March 5th meeting, and then everything else we're kind of getting through with by the 14th, possibly.
Well, we could have the vote on the April 2nd meeting.
That's what I was thinking. Maybe if
yes.
So
that would be our termination date, is that that's the date we will vote on it, and it'll be
Okay. So termination would actually be April the 2nd, but we know we would need to be prepared for that April the 2nd meeting by the 14th for our own personal vote.
And everybody would have to be here to vote. We would have to have quorum.
Okay.
To vote.
Okay.
So are we in agreement with April 2nd being the termination date?
Yes, for me, at least.
Yes, for me as well, Ashley Herbert.
And what about you, Miss Lumumba?
Yes, that's fine. Lumumba.
Yes, ma'am.
And
okay.
I was going to ask one more clarifying question about,
yes.
I know we talked about the students and identifying these additional 3rd and 4th graders and the parents. Who is identifying that? Just so I understand that. Who will be identifying those students? Would that be us on the team that we need to figure that out? Or is there a team?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
And then this April 2nd date is where we come into our meeting and make the vote to make the decision.
Yes, to accept it, to accept the findings that you guys, the uniform, basically.
Okay, thank you.
And the presentation of how we get it out to the community and all of those things. So you guys will do a full-fledged presentation and we will vote on it.
Okay.
Cool. Okay. So we said April 2nd meeting. All right. So, based on our discussion, I propose the following resolution. that FL Stanton Go Team establish a school uniform advisory committee with the goals and members as outlined on the resolution. This committee will present its final recommendations to the Go Team no later than April 2nd, 2024. May I have a motion to approve this resolution?
Motion to approve, Sharon Pitchford.
A second?
I second Alicia Torres.
Is there any additional discussion or questions about the resolution? Okay, all in favor, please say aye so the secretary can record your vote. Please state your name if you are saying aye. Jessica Tucker, aye.
Ashley Herbert, aye.
Tiffany Coleman, aye.
Sharon Pitchford, aye.
Stephanie Powell, aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions, please say abstain. All right. Our chair for our committee will be responsible for setting committee meetings, achieving the goals of the committee, adhering to open meeting laws, and providing regular reports of the committee to the Go Team. I, Jessica Tucker, I name Ashley Herbert to be the chair of the School Uniform Advisory Committee. Do you accept this appointment?
Yes.
All right. This concludes the establishment of our School Uniform Committee Advisory Committee. We will post the approved resolution to the Go Team website and submit it to the district office. All right. So we have reached we will move now to our information items. We have our principals report, which includes the enrollment and leveling updates and the additional, any additional information items.
Okay, team, we've had a lengthy meeting, so I will go as quickly as possible. On your screen, can everybody see the screen?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Here is our enrollment data. We are overstaffed, or were overstaffed by one team member. As on the screen, you see we do not have any pre-K teachers or scholars, and we are working with the Office of Early Education to reinstate our pre-K program. As we know, pre-K drives the enrollment because those scholars roll over automatically into kindergarten. And then typically if the kids come in pre-K, they do stay longer periods of time. So we are pushing to get our pre-K program reinstated. Currently, we have 2 kindergarten teachers and paras. We have 18 scholars. First grade, we have 2 teachers, 1.5 paras, 25 scholars. Second grade, 2 teachers, 2 paras, 26 scholars. Third grade, 1 teacher, 1 vacancy, 1 para, 29 scholars. Fourth grade, 1 teacher, 1 vacancy, 1 para, 25 scholars. Fifth grade, we have 2 teachers, 1 para, and 37 scholars. Due to us having 2 resignations, we do not have to physically lose a teacher. Typically in leveling, if the district tells us that we are overstaffed, then we will either have to, 1, fund that position out of our budget, take additional funds to keep that person, or we would have to lose a staff member. seeing as how we have had 2 medical resignations, then we do not have to lose or fund a teacher, but we are only able to hire and fill one of those vacancies. So basically, we almost broke even. So just to give you a little bit more detail, our enrollment projection for this year was 165. On the 15th day of school, which was August the 21st, we had 155 scholars. That was a difference of 10 scholars. Of course, we knew that the scholars would come, but per the state, we have to take count on that 15th day. Now, I'm happy to report that as of today, we're up to 160 scholars. So we knew they were coming, but that did not count for this projection. Now, based on this pin right here, that put us at a deficit. Now, I jumped a little bit ahead here. You see a budget, we're in the green, $18,000. On the next screen, I will break down for you actually what that difference meant and how we were able to remain in the green even with a deficit of 10 scholars. So our base weight is $5,334. What that means is per every scholar, we are funded at $5,334. So by us not meeting projection by 10 scholars, that put us in a deficit of $53,000 plus dollars. Okay, everybody following me so far? Every year, the district holds back what we call reserves, and that's in case of a catastrophe or something happens, we can go into those reserves. So our reserves for this year were $23,890. However, the district as a whole is at a deficit. We have over $100 million worth of debt. And so those reserves were not pushed out to the schools this year. As we would normally get those reserves, we did not receive those funds. The district held those reserves at the district level because we had such a wide budget gap. Now, we do have a Title I adjustment of $2,500, 0 family engagement funds, 0 school improvement adjustment. So let me talk a little bit about that. School improvement, since we came off the list, this is a good and a bad. When we were on the list, the state threw money at us to help us to improve. Now that we're off the list, we're glad about that. But you see here, we don't get any additional funding. So we took a very big hit in our budget this year versus what we had last year, okay? Now, in light of what has gone on the last several years across the country, the federal government pushed out funding for a security grant. That $45,000 we are not allowed to touch. The district held that back. What the district is proposing is placing a school resource officer in every building, including elementary schools. So that money will likely be used for that to offset that cost. If it does not, then there are safety improvements that we will be able to recommend that as we see fit for our building. But that is money that we cannot touch. The carryover funds, I kind of spoke to that. Like the reserves, we're not able to touch that. So that number is 0. Now, based on the reserve that we would have gotten, the Title I adjustment, that put us over $18,000. Okay. So they did some math, and in my head, the math doesn't add up totally because they used some type of formula. But I was happy to receive indication that we were not in the red, as some schools ended up in the red. We're actually in the green, $18,000. So what does that mean? We don't have enough to buy a teacher. We don't have enough to fund a para, but what we do have is funding that we can push towards instructional and experiences for our children. So we've taken that money and pushed to those line items in our budget. Now, here's just a high level overview. Of course, when we talk about personnel, I have to be very generic because I cannot violate FERPA and give nitty gritty details. But we will, because of these changes in the budget, we will have shifts in our scholars. Some parents have already received letters coming home that their teacher has changed. Now, that's largely because we look at our MAP data and we determine who's eligible for those targeted supports that I talked about. And based on that, now we have kids who have moved teachers. Also, we will have to move some teachers around. So that we have already discussed as a leadership team. Staff has been made aware that these changes are coming and they will be implemented the week of October the 21st. Ms. Baker and I toiled long and hard to come with a plan to present to leadership that would minimally impact student instruction, but at the same time that would maximize putting excellent instruction in front of the populations who need it the most. So we took about 3 solid weeks and talked and tossed it around, and we think we have a good plan that will do this, that will put excellent instruction in front of our most needy scholars. We have hired an art teacher. Mr. Colm Jenkins will be joining our team this week. He comes to us from M. Agnes Jones. He is an artist by trade. He is a muralist and he works in the community to engage kids with art in real life. And his parents are former science teachers. So he's been dubbed the STEM artist. So we're excited to have him join our team. For the vacant position, we have posted that position. Ms. Baker and I are receiving and reviewing resumes, reviewing those candidates. And by the end of the week, we will have pushed out our invites for interviews for that one vacant position that we'll hire for. And also, lastly, we have 7 student teachers that we are training, and I'm so proud because our staff is so hardworking, and I've told Dr. Johnson, this is the hardest working staff that I've ever seen, I've ever had the pleasure of working with. We were afforded the opportunity to train 7 student teachers from Clark Atlanta. So those students come with us each and every day. Non-personnel changes, we really didn't have any. We were in the green, so we did not have to cut funding from other places to offset a shortfall. So I'm happy to report that. Almost lastly, I wanted to report new partnerships. We always want to put our scholars in front of folks who can provide impact for them, experiences for them. So this year we have 3 new partners, McKinney's Inc., Pond and Company, and Carol Daniels. Of course, you know Carol Daniels is the construction company who did our renovation. They poured $19 million worth of work into our campus, and we're really proud of that. Pond and Company and McKinney's are both largely engineering firms. They just handle engineering projects in a different manner, but they are vested in our FL Stanton Tigers. And so today we should have received a check from Pond and Company to support our STEM initiatives. And last week, McKinney's Inc. provided our STEM lab with laptops, and they will be sponsoring our robotics league. So we're very excited about these partnerships. Carol Daniels, of course, they did this renovation, and they have also provided gift cards to our staff. They have, we had a staff tailgate just to say thank you for a first great month of school, and Carol Daniels sponsored that, where we were able to have a great tailgate, hot dogs, hamburgers, ribs, you name it, they provided it for us. So we are very happy to have them as partners. And lastly, I hope I didn't go too fast, our upcoming events. On tomorrow night, we at 5:30 here in the building, we will have our Tiger Family Dinner and our first APTT meeting of the year. So please help us get the word out. We want every parent of every Tiger that attends FL Stanton come out. This is where we'll do a deep dive into that data that Ms. Baker has presented. Each family will leave with data in hand that shows this is where my scholar is, and you will set goals on how you will help us to help your scholar. Also, we have our book fair that's going on right now through October the 8th. So we would love to have community. Ms. Pitchford, if you could just put it out to your team, we would love for every child in the building to walk away with at least one book. We know that some families cannot afford that. So we are looking for folks who would not mind sponsoring a kid with at least one book. And also looking forward to our parent-teacher conferences. So our APTT meeting is the pre-work for our conference week. So that will be around the week of October 21st. So you'll get your data. Parents will get question stems on how to engage with their child's teacher based on the data that they have. A lot of parents don't feel comfortable asking questions. They'll simply ask, how's my child doing? They don't know how to drill down. So we want to empower them to come with a question stem to say, now, what does this data mean for Alicia and how can I help her at home? So we will be providing that tomorrow night at APTT in preparation for the conference week. And Madam Chair, that's the end of my report. Are there any questions?
The book fair, is that for like textbooks or is that like just general reading books?
That is reading books. We want to eventually have every child at FL Stanton have a take-home library. And so this is a start for that. Okay,
so you would need people to sponsor children like financially for them to be able to buy books, or you need like donations for books for children?
For them to purchase books. So our book fair is open to anyone. So you could come in tomorrow, say Ms. Pitchford, for example, and if we have a third grade wish list, you would be able to look at that third grader's wish list and say, hey, I'll fund, item number 1 and number 5 for that third grader. And then at the end of the book fair window, that third grader would be able to take home those books.
Gotcha. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions?
All right. Does anyone have any announcements?
Other than please come out to APTT. We want you here. We need you here, and we're having family dinner. So this will be Tiger dinner time. So please come out.
Thank you, Principal Torres.
My pleasure.
I would also like to announce our next Go Team meeting is November 6, 2024. That is the first Wednesday in November, and it will be via Zoom. I believe that's what you guys voted on at the very beginning. So it will be via Zoom. We have reached the end of our agenda. Is there any additional business at this time? Okay. May I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I move that we adjourn today's meeting at 6:38 p.m.
A second?
Ashley Herbert, second.
All opposed, please raise your hand. Any abstentions? Please raise your hand on your Zoom. Meeting is adjourned. Have a good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you. Good evening.
Ms. Tucker, are we supposed to have a meeting about something at the end of this one?